Welcome back to the Convo Couch, my humans. I am Pasta Jardula, and Johnny Sue is over there spinning on those ones and two. And today we have a friend of the channel, a special guest. He's been on before. You know him by name. You hear it when we cheer him out loud. Gabriel Ramirez is on the show. How you doing, Gabriel?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me again, Pasta and the Convo Couch. It's always a pleasure to be on this show and calling you guys a lifelong friends.
Well, we haven't had a lot to cheer about with the coronavirus. Everybody's been hunkered down. We don't even know if we're going to get any football this season, so we don't even know if our Raiders and Jets will get to play each other, but hopefully they will. But let's get to some serious business over here. We had you on the show before. We kind of mentioned that maybe, Gabriel, you should run for a certain seat. So you came on here for an announcement today. Let's make that announcement. Go ahead.
Well, here it is. I guess the waiting has been officially revealed. So I'll be officially running. And as a matter of fact, I just filed last week for the Monte City Council. So I'll be running for that seat.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first on the Convo Couch. Gabriel Ramirez is running for El Monte City Council. And, listen, Gabriel, I think this is a great move. I'm glad you came on here to talk to us about this. We know you as an activist out there. I saw you run for the ADEMS. I saw you command the room in your speech. I just, not to say that you're a natural politician because you really talk real talk about what's going on in the street. I say you're a real statesman. So when you made this announcement that you were running for city council, I was really happy because I think a lot of people concentrate on these other seats, trying to run for House or state assembly. We got to think local. We got to get on the ground. We got to get in the trenches, is what I like to say. And you're doing that. Why are you running for city council in El Monte?
Well, I mean, I got a lot of support. The community has been asking because I've been involved in city council meetings for about 10 years. And I've seen a lot of things that is happening and a lot of in my area hasn't been addressed and nobody hasn't really stepped it up. And I've been advocating, pushing issues in my area particularly, and not just particularly in my area, but for all of Almani. And so the time was very right when I was silenced. And I said to myself, if you're going to silence me and other people, can't be it. So the community really needs to know that we need a new leadership, a leadership that is going to be very transparent for all, regardless if you disagree or agree with them, and not to silence them and to listen to them, but also working for everyone in El Monte, regardless of what's your stance.
Yeah. I think that's important too because I want you to go into a little bit about the silencing because, we live right around the corner from El Monte and we hear about a lot of problems going on over there. In particular, the police. We had a situation, I believe the El Monte Police Department beat some people down for mistaken identity. And then a lot of things just erupted. And the way the El Monte police acted, we saw the video. It was pretty disgusting and they deserved the protest that went down. You can see here's the night of the incident. They're just beating people down. This is right in your neighborhood, Gabriel. Mistaken identity, but the way they went at it, just beating people rather than detaining them. Can you speak a little bit about the police in El Monte and your approach to why you're running to maybe straighten them out?
Well, yes. Again, I was a volunteer for the El Monte Police Explorers, and I said to myself, I see a lot of things that it needs to change, and you really need to change. And based on what happened with the videos of recent, what just happened with the families and the Klingermans, it's very disturbing, to be honest. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I've never been emotional when I saw the mother of those really really emotional, asking for justice, and it's something that it really needs to address. And by means of that, we used to have a community relations, and that was really run well until we have the regime now that pretty much dissolve the community relations. And look, without the community relations, you're going to cause chaos, and this is what is happening here in El Monte. That's something I'm also running on, to making sure that we want to make sure we put those resources to help those out there, those on the streets. That I'm here to not a politician, but to be an advocate, pushing for resources, anything that they can get, so that way we can progress and pretty much be the city that we claim which is called the friendly city.
Yeah, it's good that you're trying to get actual activists and citizens in these seats is really important, and we have to fight and get behind our local citizens who want to stand up and really make serious change for everybody within the city. Why don't you tell us about the relationship when it comes to the current city council and about the mayor? Because I hear a lot of negative talks from a lot of activists when it comes to the city council of El Monte and the mayor.
Well, yes. Well, we have a mayor that he actually works for the city of Los Angeles, city attorney's office, but he claims he's a prosecutor. His name is Andre Quintero, and so he's been around office now for 10 years, and he's now going to go for another 2-year terms. He's been very bullied and also intimidating residents, those who don't agree with his agenda, or he tries to silence them, including myself, when we bring up these issues. And he does not like to get criticized. And this is something where not just myself, but a mentor of mine's, his name is Cosme Jimenez, and he's the one that, not just him, but other people as well, like that have been very silenced. And also he's been silencing 2 city councilwomen. One of them is Victoria Martinez Muela, and the other councilwoman is Jessica Ancona. And recently, our city council just what they did when I submitted my public comment, they summarized it, which they said that technically they're not obligated to read public comments. And that's when, thankfully, to Councilwoman Martinez Muela, really asked the mayor and the the city attorney to really to enforce these protocols. And I guess from there, the mayor started to silence both of them, and very brutal. And I there's some videos that I posted out there.
Yeah, it's a shame when they start changing these rules and trying to silence the citizens, but it's even worse when they silence other city council members. How many city council members are there on the board in El Monte? How many do we have?
It's a total of 5, and it's
and
at
what
large.
Number are you running for? Are you running against an incumbent, or is there an open seat? Has somebody been termed out?
I'm running against 2 incumbent seats, so it's at large. So there's no by election.
So they don't do by district; they just do 5, and it's at large. So there's no. Is there an incumbent, or is there just other? There's
2 incumbents that are
2
running.
Incumbents.
Yes.
So okay, how many people are going to be in this race?
So right now, so far, we have 5 now. 5.
So they just take the top 2 out of the whole vote?
That is correct.
What's the date of the vote?
November the 3rd.
So it's right around the corner.
That is correct.
You got 3 months. You got a little bit of a blitzkrieg campaign. You got to get out there, hit the streets. What are you going to do to get the word out to get these votes? I mean, I've seen you talk before, and you're connected with the community. I went and covered your ADEM process, and you were the top getter, I think, in the whole friggin' room over there. So, but what are you going to do to further cement a chance at getting this seat and get the word out in this short amount of time?
Well, with this pandemic now, it's a game changer, and a lot of people said that social media doesn't work. Actually, social media does work. One of it is social media, phone banking, text banking, and I know walking is going to be very, that's another thing is walking. So, and also mailers, letting them know, putting out the message. What I'm focusing on is just making an impact, leaving a strong message to the voters in El Monte.
Nice. If you get elected, what's your first order of business if you take the seat on a city council? In other words, day one, you go in there. What does Councilman Ramirez push for?
Well, as a council member, what I'm going to be pushing for is the transparency, making sure that we force a policy of a transparency, making sure, because I know we have 3 minutes to speak, which is very little. But also limiting on a lot of agendas, because there's a lot of agendas that we have that we need to make sure that we need to focus on which are the priorities. That's one. Secondly, it has to be just a group. Cannot just be by me. Is getting the citizens of El Monte active. I mean, I cannot do it alone. We need activists and to pretty much push us to let us know. So what I really focusing on is actually restoring back our commissions, commissions like the housing, putting things that we know that we want those commissioners to give us a feedback, to give a recommendation and follow it. actually follow it and making sure that we can move forward with it. That's
Yeah.
two. And another one is restoring back the community relations.
Yeah.
The most important is I want to work the people that are in the streets, that are in the gangs. I want to work. I want to work for them, and that's something that I will be working for them. And our last thing is working with the people that are been affected with the housing. There's a place called Brookside where it's a mobile home where they're pretty much been. I went last week and I said to myself, look, I'm not making no promises, but I will make sure that I will pretty much urge our county, our
Yeah.
state, and our federal to give us those resources, and also looking at what proposals that were made, like the cannabis tax. I want to make sure these cannabis tax that we're getting goes to the right appropriate areas, the housing, mental resources,
Yeah.
all the stuff that we need.
Right there. That's a clip right there we should play over and over again, because I've been in a room with you before, and I know you're an activist, and like you talked about the housing issue, I know that's important to you. But the thing about Gabriel Ramirez, and when people are watching out there and they have to listen and learn, is that Gabriel always listens to the people. I think it's awesome that one of your initiatives is to reach out and find out what the people want restored, and what they want and what their need is, to address that need as well.
And personally, I've been on the ground with Gabriel. I've covered a couple of his protests. Gabriel's an activist. Gabriel, I'm not sure if you're aware of Shama Sawant. Do you know who Shama Sawant is?
No, I don't.
She's in Seattle. She ran as a socialist, and she won a city council seat in Seattle. And she's been out there protesting on the ground in Seattle. Is that something that we can expect from a Gabriel Ramirez city council?
Yeah. Are you going to still be on the picket lines with
You're
us?
still going to be on the lines.
I'm still going to be an advocate. And one thing I forgot to mention is that in my area, we have an Amazon. And right yesterday, I almost got hit by Amazon right by my across the street. So I will be making sure that these big businesses, they pay their fair share. If not, they can take a hike.
Yeah. You know something though, Gabriel? Here's something let me ask. There are some big businesses in Monte, but there are a lot of small businesses. How can you help small businesses thrive in a community as diverse as Monte? Because it's really just this melting pot of all different cultures. And the small businesses, they have to sometimes deal with the regulations of the state, and in Los Angeles and in California in particular, it could be very heavy. What can you do to help the small businesses of Monte out?
Perfect, because you asked that question. So to answer to your question, I have some business owners that reach out to me about they're losing their business, and one of them they're telling me about is the requirements from the state and the county, and also our city hasn't been very business friendly. And I'm talking about the applications, the process. So as a council member, and also getting on board with my colleagues, potential colleagues, is to reach out to the county and to the state and to the federal, to making sure what ways we can work to make it easy for the small businesses, not just for the small business, but encouraging those who want to open a small business.
There you go.
And one of them is the resources, is getting them the help that they need to move up. And people are telling me, well, it's too radical, the $15 an hour. I'm like, okay, well, how are you going to implement that? Well, here's a solution: is we work with the small businesses. We reduce the regulations for the small businesses, because having a lot of regulations, it drives down our businesses so low.
Yeah.
And this is where we want to help them improve to grow, so they can potentially, pay the employees a minimum that they can really have, but not just for the employees, but to also maintain for their families. That's what I care about them as well. So I care for the well-being for them and for their families, so they can have a livable wage where they can afford to not worrying about skipping food just for rent, for their business and for their housing.
I think it's great that you're providing some buffer to get rid of that red tape. I've always said in a lot of these, smaller cities, that if there was a way where we had a buffer where the city provided services to help businesses by getting through the red tape of the county or the state and really elevate small businesses in these communities, it would be great. And it's also awesome to know that you're pro-business. You're a delegate in the ADEM process, whatnot. What is your thoughts about the current state of affairs with the Democratic Party right now? I mean, I know we went through this whole process, and now Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are the choices. What's your overall thought process, and especially about Kamala Harris?
Well, I mean, as a resident of California, and I haven't really been a big fan of hers, and her policy has been very poor. Her record has been not the best, to be honest with you, and she's part of those the of the corporations for the private prisons, because she was our California attorney general, and that is a very huge contradiction, that she says she's for, she's for the reform, for justice reform, but how do you want justice reform when in the past you were backed by the private prisons, or you
Yeah,
were supported by them?
yeah,
And then the state of our party has been very divided, and it's been already, look what happened with Bernie Sanders. They did it again, and it's a
yeah,
lot of co-opting. A lot of these, they come themselves progressives, they're being co-opted, and
yeah,
that's the problem. You know,
yeah.
that's just
I
disgusting.
was I was gonna say something. Yeah, there's a couple people that when they vote out there and stuff, like some of the ADEMs, like yourself and stuff, that we knew. It's like, wow, they really drew a line in the sand over here. We know who's standing with us and who's not standing with us, with the whole Rusty Hicks and our Kimberly Ellis, one of my favorite candidates of all times. And yeah, it was kind of hard to see it being co-opted from the inside. We talked about Kamala Harris. She was the AD, and she threatened truancy to a lot of families in California and whatnot. What are the state of affairs of the schools in El Monte, and what can you do to make sure that we get a lot of kids back in the schools and off the streets, particularly in your districts?
Well, as a candidate for city council, is to still maintain the relationship with the schools, right? That's the number one important. Two is working with them, collaborating, but also getting their input. So what ways we can pass some resources. If it's not in our jurisdiction of the city, then we can start, contacting our county and state and federal to get, if the county won't do it or the federal won't do it, then I mean, one of the things is to get aboard with our school board leaders and our council colleagues and even the community, to make a drive up to Sacramento, to the LA or to Washington D.C., letting them know, look, but not just us, but also other surrounding cities to do the same, so we can push these issues for the schools. Because again, we're declining a lot of kids, and it's because of the housing, because you have developers that are coming into our cities, and they're saying that it's going to be for housing for the families, but look, the enrollment, a lot of kids are leaving to other school districts. And so this is where I really need to talk with our school districts and our school board members, and let them know what ways we can do, what are the things that we're doing wrong, so we don't repeat those mistakes.
Nice. You're going to be running for a city council seat, so you're not going to have to make decisions on foreign policy. However, if we continue to go to war and an empire spreads throughout the world, there's going to be some kids in El Monte that will go and give their lives for maybe a lot of rich people. I don't know how you want to look at foreign policy, but their lives will be on the line. Some of the kids in the district. How do you, as a city councilman, even though you don't have any power over our foreign policy decisions, how do you make your opinions known as far as where you stand? Because a lot of the kids in your district will have to go and fight these wars.
Right, and during this difficult times, for once, I'm always been against the war. I'm always against interventionists, intervening in other countries that don't pertain our business to be part of it. And as a council member, I would really talk to my Congress, right, and other officials, letting them know, hey, if you put this war, you're pretty much endangering our residents. Those who are gonna go out there, because for the special interests that are influencing our government locally, county, state level, and federal. So I will make sure that maybe do a resolution with the colleagues, but again, discuss with the colleagues and let them know that we don't agree going into war for a particular reason, just because the military industry contracts or whatever that they want. And that's something that's going to be very challenging for me, but also for my colleagues.
So let me get this straight. You're a housing activist. You're ready to work with other city councils when you get in. You're ready to work with businesses to cut some red tape to help El Monte small businesses work within the county in LA. You're willing to talk to other members in other cities next to you to make sure that you have a close working relationship and bond to see if you can help each other with resources. You're ready to talk to other candidates or other, politicians when it comes to foreign policy. You're willing to work within the schools and be close to the schools. So you're ready to work and do all these issues across the board and become a city council member for El Monte. And this is why I said you got to watch out for Gabriel Ramirez and you got to support him running for city council. Johnny, you got anything else to talk about? Johnny's got a couple good questions.
Go for it.
Are you running as a Democrat for city council? I don't know if it was said earlier.
It's nonpartisan.
It's nonpartisan?
It's nonpartisan. It's nonpartisan.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. But you've dealt with the Democratic Party quite a bit. If certain Democrats or certain people, I'm curious if you're gonna put party over people is what I'm curious about.
It's gonna be all about people. I don't care what political party you are with this local election. This is not about Democrats, Republicans, Independents, Green. It doesn't matter if you're a libertarian. It doesn't matter. What I'm here is to making sure that I work with everyone, regardless of what's their political stance, their views. I'm here to making sure that I get your vote, but not your vote, but also your trust. Not only your trust, but also to be as your employer, as your employee. Correction.
And then another thing is, you saw the elections here. What happened, right? And you were a Bernie supporter before, correct?
That is correct. 110%.
What do you think about the elections that happened this year? And do you think it was all fair? I mean, Raji Rab is he just announced he's having an election and integrity protest tomorrow. Is that something that you're fighting for as well, or are you aware of the issues that have gone on?
Well, I'm actually been a huge on the elections integrity because again, this election for Bernie, not just in Bernie, but in local races, it has been rigged. And they've been doing some shady stuff that it's kind of hard to prove it because again, these people that we have in office, they share resources for the bad. And so this is something that I want to make sure that I want to join with anyone who ran for office or who actually are running for office to making sure that these processes are being fair. And right now, our elections hasn't been very transparent, hasn't been fair, and it's really hurting our communities.
Yeah, that's the big thing. It hasn't been very transparent at all.
How were the lines in El Monte for the election? Was it bad?
You went and voted, right?
That is correct.
Yeah.
So there were lines on Monday and even Tuesdays, but on the weekends it was still lined, but we went there on Sunday before all this, but on Monday it got really heavy.
On March 3rd, did you have friends? On Super Tuesday, did you have friends who were like, I'm waiting in line for 3 hours? I don't know. Did you hear stories?
Yes, I heard one in particular. They were telling me that they would have to wait, or one of them had to leave because I got to go into work and I can't afford to stay in line for amount of hours,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, I believe you sent me a text that night, earlier in the week. We had this happen a lot, and some people from El Monte too as well, where they were in the e-poll book, and they were in the registration book, and they were giving a provisional ballot when they should have had a right to cast a regular ballot. Did you see any of that stuff going on too as well, or no?
No, I didn't. But what I did experience for me was the when you register, when you go in there, when they ask you your name and all that, I'm like, well, I looked at it, I'm like, well, my name's been there on my register. How is it very difficult to find my name? And I've pretty much been voting all my time. I never missed a vote, and I checked my status, and so that was only one. That was something small, but yeah.
Yeah, John.
That's it.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's it. That's Gabriel Ramirez. He's running for city council in El Monte. Gabriel, tell everybody where they can find you, help you out. Guys, if you got a few bucks, $1, $2, $3, get it over to Gabriel Ramirez. Every little bit counts. A bunch of people with a few bucks adds up to a lot of bucks, and that could lead to a Gabriel Ramirez victory. It's important. We love this guy. He's a great activist. He controls the room. I don't call him a good politician. I call him a good statesman. Statesman Ramirez, tell people where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at my Facebook. It's called Gabriel Ramirez for El Monte City Council. Also, right now it's still pending, but you can still donations. What I do expect is just minimum donations, not over 100, just small to 99. So yeah.
And Gabriel, there's 5 councilmen there. I'm assuming, because I forgot to ask you the one question, which was if you have like established-minded people that are on the city council, or people who've been bought out by special interest or real estate in particular. You see a lot of these states, a lot of the city councils. I know in Alhambra, the Rakovich group has gotten their claws into some of the city council members, and they've changed the zoning to put up luxury condos. Well, in Monte, I assume there's a few allies on the, but there's a lot of deterrents, like the mayor. How would you work to get things done if there are more people who have special interest controlled when you're the activist trying to work for the people and you're standing by yourself or just with one person?
Good question. So working with set aside our personal issues, right? But also get onto the board, letting the community know this is what we need to work on, and by means of that is to again not fighting over the dais as it is. So making sure that we can come up with real solutions. And if we cannot get it done, then we need to still continue on until we get it right. We're not going to just put it under the rug. And that's what has been happening in our cities, because there's been a lot of fighting, and it's just in a closed session too. It's been very heavy. So again, as a candidate for council, even if there's going to be the enemies in there, but you know what? I'm willing to work no matter what. And what I'm doing is to let them know for the record and for the public to know that I'm going to be working for the people, because they're the ones who elected us, to making sure that we are going to be there for them, even through the good, through the bad, through the worst. And this is what I'm going to be continuing on to do. Even if I'm going to be outnumbered, I'm still going to let the public know that this is what I did. This is what I tried to do. So the people can know who they really dealing with and who are the people that are working for them.
Yeah. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you had it right there. Gabriel Ramirez working for the people, on behalf of the people. He doesn't care what political stance you're on, what side you're on. He wants to do what's best for the community, and if that works with people who don't share the same ideology, that doesn't scare Gabriel Ramirez. He's going to go there and make things happen, and that's why we brought him on the show today, to make this great announcement. Gabriel, thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, go over to Gabriel's page over there. Help him out. Everything helps. If you can phone bank, if you can make phone calls, whatever you can do if you're in the area, let's get this man a seat on the city council. Johnny?
We need more local activists in our city council. This is how we start. You think global, you act local.
Exactly.
We start taking over seats in the government.
We got to take over seats in the city council first, and then we work our way up. Ladies and gentlemen, for Pasta Jardula and Johnny Sue on the ones and twos with Gabriel Ramirez, Councilman Ramirez, let's make it happen, Captain.
Thank you.
Convo out. Thank you.